This will be full spoilers, so if you haven't played Xenoblade 3, Xenoblade 1, or Xenoblade 2, and you care about spoilers, please consider that, as I'm about to spoil a bunch for you. Let's just kind of go back a little bit. So first of all, this is Noah. He's the main character of Xenoblade 3. He looks a little bit older here, a little bit edgier. And then we also have the Bionis here. This kind of looks like the Bionis pre-Xenoblade 3 because things aren't really destroyed, but I'll talk about that in a sec. And then here we have Alvis, who was one of the main characters of Xenoblade 1, and he's also connected to Pyra and Mithra as established in Xenoblade 2. And then we also have older Rex here, and if we rewind a bit, you can see he's holding two Aegises. The one on the right is Mithra's, the one on the left is Pyra's. And then we have Shulk here with his
Monado.
not the real Monado. This is actually the Monado replica that he created after the events of Xenoblade 1, but Alvis is holding the original Monado in this image, which is very interesting. So anyway, theory crafting a little bit. I'm very excited about this because, one, it looks like it's going to be what people were hoping, which is a game that's going to focus on the three protagonists, which is kind of what people wanted from Xenoblade 3. So when Xenoblade 3 was announced, and it was announced that it was going to be the convergence of the Xenoblade 1 and 2 worlds, people were really hoping for a connected narrative. However, the directors were saying like it is its own thing, like it's not going to be that. And I know a lot of people were really disappointed with Xenoblade 3 because they wanted more connective tissue, whereas I really, really enjoyed it for what it was. Now, to give you some context, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, the essential like storyline of the world is that so originally Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2 worlds were like Earth. And then there was, an event where humanity was destroying itself. So Klaus, the scientist, decided to use this like alien piece of technology called the conduit to try and reset the world. And when he did it, he accidentally split the worlds into two. One of the worlds, the new world, became the Xenoblade 1 world of the Bionis and the Mechonis, and the old world turned into All Rest, which is the world from Xenoblade 2. Klaus himself was split into two. His like malicious like lust for like control became Zanza, who's the villain of Xenoblade 1. And his like actual consciousness became Klaus, or the architect who created the Xenoblade 2 world. Essentially, what happens at the end of Xenoblade 1 and 2 is that Klaus dies in both worlds because Shulk stops Zanza and the architect dies, and then the worlds start to merge back together because they yearn to be back together. And then that's where Xenoblade 3 happens, is when the worlds merge. Now, because the worlds are merging, the heroes try to figure out a way to like stop everybody from dying. So they create this giant like machine that's supposed to like store the consciousness of all of the people in both worlds, so that it can essentially reset them when the worlds collide and kill everybody, and then just like rebirth them all, and then they can all live together. Now, throughout the story of Xenoblade 3, you learn that this new world, Ionios, is in this like cyclical nature where people have to kill each other to survive. And you learn that the reason that it exists like this is because this mysterious character called Zed has created this cycle where people can never grow old enough essentially to learn what's happening so that he can maintain control, and that the world is essentially frozen in time right before the world collided as a result of the people fearing change. And the thing that they created to hold all the data of all the people, essentially like all the fears and like negative emotions of all of the people of both worlds that were afraid of what would happen when the worlds merged, corrupted the piece of tech. And so the piece of tech in response created Zed, which froze the world in place right before it converged with each other to stop it from converging, and created a cycle where they would never be able to have the worlds converge. That's a lot of context. There were a lot of plot holes in Xenoblade 3, such as where the hell were Shulk and Rex if the world was like recreated and all this stuff. And then there's also this story about like the founders of that world that like created the city to like eventually rise up against the villains, and there were like statues of the founders in the city that looked similar to Shulk and Rex. Now those statues look almost exactly like their designs here. a little bit forward, I'll show you these designs. So like the founder, one of the founders looks exactly like Shulk looks like here, and the other one looks exactly like Rex does. I think, but also other people think, that this scene here is a scene of the founder's story. So a lot of people think this is going to be a prequel as a result, because it's going to tell the story of how they founded the city. Now, I don't think it's going to be a prequel. That's where I disagree with everybody. I think it's going to be a sequel. I think what's going to happen here is I think they're going to contextualize all of Xenoblade 3's plot. I think what they're doing here is they're showing a scene. They're showing a scene of Shulk and Rex working with Noah's ancestor to try and stop all of this stuff from happening. Now, obviously, Shulk and Rex are big threats to the villain's big plans. And now Alvis, who was a little bit more of a heroic character in Xenoblade 1, but had a lot of mystery, is here. And it seems that they're opposing him. So I think the whole purpose of this scene is going to be to show everybody that Alvis created all of this. Alvis was the real villain of Xenoblade 3, and the reason Shulk and Rex were not there is because he removed them. He took them out of the cycle. Now, at the end of Xenoblade 3, when they stop Zed, the worlds depart again, and they kind of leave it on this like ending of like the characters that went back to Allrest and the characters that went back to the Bionis long for each other, and they hope that one day they will come back together. So I think the story is going to be that, you know, they're trying to find a way to join the worlds back together, and Alvis, who clearly had an issue with the worlds being merged originally because I think he created this whole scenario to stop it from merging, will reemerge and try to stop them again. And then I think Shulk, Rex, Noah, and all the characters from Xenoblade 3 and 1 and 2 are going to have to work together to stop Alvis, who has direct ties to Klaus, who has ties to the Monado, and it's going to be one big fan servicey ending to this whole trilogy of stories, where we're going to get to play as a bunch of the characters from across the series, and we're going to get all these big fan servicey moments to really tie it up, because it's supposed to be the ending of this saga. So that's what I think is happening here. That is a big explanation. I'm very pumped. I think Giga Chad Rex looks awesome.
Giga Chad.
I'm super hyped. I just think it looks really good. So thank you for listening to my Xenoblade theory crafting.
See, I go ahead and tell.
No, I just gonna say I wish I cared a lot about Xenoblade. Like, it seems so cool, but I don't want to play 3 like really long RPGs. Plus like Torna and then this as well, right? So, but
that's very fair.
I might just watch the cutscenes.
I am very happy that I have not bought the expansion pass yet, because I really, really hope that they do what they did with Torna and they release this standalone, because I would buy this in a heartbeat standalone if it is what I think it is. But yeah, that's the Xenoblade segment. So it wasn't much of a discussion, more of a
explanation. Here's everything.
Yeah.
Everything you need to know.